let's start with the year-over-year headline number. That came in a little bit hotter than expected.
Inflation figures for November have just been published. You might want to look away now.
I personally think we are right in maybe the biggest bubble of my career.
Over the past year, prices for everything from oil to groceries have been rising sharply as the economy bounces back from the pandemic. This graph charts the Consumer Price Index, a metric that measures the average change in prices for consumer goods and services compared to a year ago. Essentially, the measure of inflation. In May, prices spiked 5%, the highest spike in nearly 13 years. Compare this to the 2% which the central bank aims to achieve. The recent surges in CPI have some speculating the US will lose control, and we may see inflation reaching rates of 15% like we saw in 1979. We run the risk of inflation staying too high for too long. Higher prices mean employees need higher wages, pushing up costs for businesses, which can eventually lead to an upward spiral of wages and prices. As a response to this, we've seen central banks increase interest rates to battle high inflation. A central bank raises rates to increase the cost of borrowing and to incentivize households and businesses to save, therefore reducing the money supply. For the average household, raising rates affects mortgages as the interests due on the mortgage increase month on month, and therefore the cost of living becomes more expensive. Consequently, we see disposable income falling for many families as households have less to spend on essentials and therefore spending habits change. If you have a variable rate mortgage where the interest rate you pay is linked to the central bank's interest rate, then immediately the interest rate translates to less cash to spend on other things. It's not only households that are affected, but also businesses find it more expensive to borrow and invest, which results in less economic activity and therefore less job growth. The combination of fewer jobs and lower wages leads to less money for households and spending falls. Gradually, the central banks reduce the money supply and help bring down inflation.